up, girls, guys, and otherwise? My name is Nikki, and welcome back to another Lego set review. I know, I said I was gonna have the Hobbit video out first, but I've been dealing with a lot of problems with that one. I finally got the thing together, and then the YouTube Content ID system found some footage, submitted a dispute to Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers rejected the dispute, so the video was blocked. So now I get to go edit it and trim out some of the footage and hope that works. Worst case scenario, I might just have to take out all Battle of the Five Armies footage, which would be so annoying, but you do what you gotta to get stuff done. So while I wait for that video to be done, I think it'd be best to move on to something else that I had talked about doing, which is a review of the new Lego Minas Tirith set. Yes, you heard me right. A set I have mentioned wanting for a very long time is available, and I have bought it and put it together. When I tell you I have been waiting forever for this set, I have been waiting forever. I think the first time I mentioned it was during my review on the Lego Shire set, which came out in April of last year, so it's been a very long time. That was actually the set that I submitted a feedback form for, where I specifically said I wanted to see a Minas Tirith set, and I guess Lego saw that and was like, I hear you girl, let's do it. So they made the set, and now I have it, and I'm finally ready to talk about it. First things first, I bought this set the day it became available, so I was able to get the gift with purchase, which was Grond, the battering ram. Grond was pretty simple and easy to put together, and it comes to 2 orcs. I don't really have much to say about it other than it looks cool, and I think it's a great gift with purchase. It's very thematic. I've always preferred when the gift with purchase is consistent with the theme of the actual product you're buying. So the Shire set came with the Smeagol and Deagle gift with purchase, the new Black Pearl came with Jack's Compass, and now we have Grond coming with Minas Tirith. It just feels very appropriate. It is a neat little set, won't take you too long to put together, and I think it's really cool. I think it works really well. So let's actually get into the meat of the video, which is talking about the Minas Tirith set itself. Is it pronounced Minas Tirith or Minas Tirith? I'm going to go with Minas Tirith, but I'm probably wrong about that. In any event, I'm going to do what I usually do with these reviews and divide the video up into 2 parts. The first is going to be about the set itself, and the second is going to be about the minifigures. We'll start with the set itself because I kind of have less to say about that. The set is primarily built in 2 pieces, which is the outer wall and then the inner part of the city, which is the biggest and the main section. That section has some small rooms tucked away. It has the Great Hall and the Great Throne Room. And the outer wall primarily has the gates, which can open and close, and a little market where people are selling fruits and veggies. Throughout the set, you will find things like the palantir that Denethor was using, a stack of wood that he uses to create the pyre that he lights himself and Faramir with, and several beacons which have been lit courtesy of Pippin. The first thing you will notice about this set is that it is big. It is easily the biggest Lord of the Rings set ever made. It's massive. It's 2 feet across and 2 feet tall. I always say it's important to take stock of your space before you buy a Lego set just to make sure you have the space to build it, and never has that been more true than for this set. Oh my god, it is huge, and it is a huge pain in the butt to try to move anywhere. So I would definitely recommend building it where you plan to store it if possible, because you don't want to have to move it later on. And as is common with sets that big, God almighty, it's so fragile. That set broke twice while I was working on it. Actually, no, I think the first time was just I couldn't see how the pieces fit together, so I tried to rebuild it, and eventually realized I was being stupid and should have just kept going, and it would have been fine. But there were at least 2 other instances where it broke and I had to put it back together, which was awful. This set took me, I kid you not, 30 hours to build over the course of about 10 days. 30 hours! For context, the biggest set I had built before that was the Rivendell set, and that took 19 hours over about 5 days. And about 3 out of these 30 hours were spent just trying to fix the damn thing. So the process of getting it together was definitely very complicated, but in the end it did come together and it looks pretty good. One of the cool things about Minas Tirith is that it's meant to be the whole city, so there are aspects of it that are built at the scale of minifigures, places like, the Great Hall and the Throne Room, and all the little rooms that they're in. But you also have micro-scale homes on the outside of the city, and the courtyard with the White Tree of Gondor was also micro-scale as well, though you can stick a minifigure in there if you feel so inclined. It's very cool how this set is able to include the entire city as well as all of the iconic locations. I think the Great Hall is my favorite part of the whole set. It has Aragorn's throne, Denethor's smaller chair, the table where he sits and eats, and yes, there are tomatoes included. Well, technically it's cherries that are acting as tomatoes, but they're there. There's this beautiful arch with 7 stars on the background. There's statues of the old kings. The floor has this beautiful pattern. It is just gorgeous. That is probably my favorite part of the whole set. It is amazing. And it was probably my favorite part to build and what I actually spent the most amount of time on just because it is so big. But I also love building all the little rooms where the characters can stay and all the little details like the pyre and the palantir and the beacons all over the place. So I absolutely love all the detailing in it. I especially love the detail on the cliff that Denethor jumps off of and all the rocks on the side. It's amazing. Not fun to have to put together, but it does look good when it's done. So the actual building of the set is very much a trust the process kind of situation. You do really have to trust the process, and there are points where it will get rather difficult. But if you can push through, I would say it is definitely worth putting together because it just looks so cool. And also, getting to say you build a set that big is very impressive and makes you look really cool. At least it does for me. That's just the way I see it. Now let's talk about the most interesting part of the set, the minifigures. Every good LEGO set needs good minifigures. Or, I suppose certain themes require good minifigures. Every good Lord of the Rings set needs good minifigures. Now, this set actually doesn't have that many minifigures, especially compared to Rivendell, which is a smaller set in terms of number of pieces, but has more minifigures. But the minifigures that we do get are awesome. First, I want to talk about the new characters who we have never gotten in minifigure form before. The two that are probably going to be the most noticeable are Faramir and Denethor. Now, anyone who's been on my channel for any amount of time can tell you, I love Faramir. That is my son. I am so maternal towards him. I am so happy that I finally get to have him in minifigure form. And just look at this design. It is beautiful, and it captures his likeness very well, about as well as one can for a minifigure. I also really love Denethor's design, even though I hate Denethor because, well, you know. But I just love the detailing on both their outfits, especially on the armor for Faramir. Now, we do also get 4 Gondor soldiers, and they're not as noticeable simply because they're not named characters that people, really know a lot about. But they're definitely really well designed, especially the helmets. The helmets are really cool. This is also the first time we have an official Shadowfax minifigure. I mean, it's a white horse. It looks like a lot of other white horses. It works for Shadowfax. It really is more about saying you have Shadowfax than getting something that really looks like Shadowfax. It's a little bit different than, say, the Great Eagles from some of the earlier sets, because not every story out there has giant eagles. They're so iconic to Lord of the Rings in particular, but a horse is, well, there's horses in everything. But it is cool to get to say you have Shadowfax. I decided to put him kind of out and about in the courtyard, just milling around, saying hi to people. I honestly think that's where he works best. So now we get to talk about some of the updated minifigures, or more accurately, 3 out of the 4 of them are new models of characters who have already been made in minifigure form, but we've never gotten them in these outfits before. There's only one that's really existed in this variation, and has been updated for this new set. That one character is, of course, Gandalf the White. I actually have an old Gandalf the White minifigure from the Battle of the Black Gate set. And just looking at the two, you can see there's a lot more detail in the new Gandalf the White, and he looks really great. And they also decided to give him both his sword and his staff, which is really cool, so he can have both. However, I do have to say I'm not really a fan of the staff. This is pretty much the same kind of staff that Gandalf has always had, where it's just a stick. And I have seen some custom-made Gandalf minifigures that actually include like a closer replica of what his staff really looks like, and it just looks so much better. I really think LEGO should give us a more accurate replica of Gandalf's staff because it is so cool to look at in the films, but you don't really get anything like that in minifigure form. It is kind of a shame. But I do still like this Gandalf minifigure and think he looks really cool. Now the last 3 minifigures are ones that we have gotten before, like we have gotten version of those characters, but not in these particular outfits. The first one I want to talk about is Aragorn, because I think it may be comparable to his outfit from the Battle of the Black Gate set, another minifigure I do actually have. But here he has like an actual chest plate, and he has a new hairpiece which has his crown in it. I love that we get to see Aragorn with his crown because the scene where he gets crowned King of Gondor is such an iconic scene and is probably one of the most beautiful moments in the whole trilogy. Now this hair model is actually repurposed for the 2 statues in the Great Hall. They are a very cool addition to the set, and I like that they were able to repurpose that hairpiece because it shows how the crown is passed from, one king to another over time. I just really like this new Aragorn. He looks so cool. Another character we have yet another version of is Arwen. She appears in the outfit she wears to Aragorn's coronation, which is that green dress, and she carries the banner of Gondor that she brought to the coronation. In the book, she actually sewed that herself for Aragorn to help keep his spirits up, which I think is really cute. This is the 3rd variation of Arwen we've gotten. The first one was her at the Council of Elrond in the blue dress. Second was her in Rivendell in the white dress, and now we have her in this green dress. I just like that we get to see Arwen in minifigure form with all these different colors of dresses because they look really cool. One thing that does kind of bother me though is that when Lego brought back Lord of the Rings, they basically gave every single elf character the same hairpiece. Same design, same style, just like different colors. If you look at old Lego Lord of the Rings minifigures and Lego Hobbit minifigures, they have like a couple different variants for hairs for the elves. So you have the style of like what Tutorial have, where it's all kind of behind their shoulders and has little braids. You have one that Elrond and Galadriel have, which has their crown pieces attached to the hair. And I really like it more than just using the same couple of hairstyles. I think I ranted about this in the Rivendell set, but I think Legolas's old hairstyle looks more like he does in the films compared to his new hairstyle. I like how it includes the details of his braids, which is something that may not seem important, but it just looks better and a lot more accurate to the films. Now, I understand that when you translate mediums like books to movies, movies to Legos, whatever, obviously things are not going to look exactly the same, especially when you're actually adapting the story, you know, and trying to like take certain things out, make certain things better. I've talked about this in the past, a lot of different things. But I feel like when you're going from the films to the Lego sets, you do really have to be accurate because in terms of Lego sets, it's not really about the story, it very much is about the visuals. The visuals are what people are going to notice. So it does have to look somewhat close to the movie, you know? So I feel like your main goal should be making it look like the movies, because that's the most important aspect of Lego designs is how they look. Well, obviously, to the people building them, you have to consider like structural integrity and stuff like that, but to the people who are just observing them, the look is the most important part. So what this means for this new Arwen minifigure is that she has the new hairstyle for the elves, and her crown is actually printed onto her headpiece. The Elrond from the Rivendell set actually looks the same way. He has the same thing where his crown is on his head instead of his hairpiece. And I don't really like it because, you know, when your crown goes on top of your hair, it should go across or over it, not underneath it. It just doesn't really look right. But that's something that has just been a problem with this updated line, you know, this new version of Lord of the Rings line. It's not something that's unique to Rivendell, but it is still frustrating. I do like Arwen's new dress. I like getting to see her in this new outfit. I love her having the banner with her, but that's just something that falls a little flat for me. And last but certainly not least, we have one Peregrine Took, aka Pippin. And this is where we actually get to see him for the first time in Gondor armor, when he joins the Tower Guard. Now, it's a bit more difficult to get detail onto Pippin because his legs are so short. I do like that they have the bare feet for the hobbits, which is something they've had as early as Rivendell, like when they updated the line again. The old sets would have the legs be pretty much all the same color for the hobbits, but now they actually have the bare feet. But that's about as much detail as you can put into legs that are that short. So most of the detail for Pippin is in his armor and the chest piece, the torso piece, and it looks really good. It's just really cool getting to see the White Tree of Gondor on characters. Now, we have gotten this before, most notably with Aragorn at the Battle of Blackgate, but I just really like the design. I think it transfers really well. Now, there is one itty-bitty problem with all this, and it is one I've talked about in the past, but I feel like it is still here, so I want to bring it up again. Both the short legs for the hobbits and child characters and the dress pieces can't be folded to make the characters sit down, so what they would do with certain sets, like the Rivendell set, is they would build new sitting down pieces for both legs of short characters and dress pieces for characters who wear dresses or robes. They did not include those in this one. So Pippin can't sit down and neither can Arwen. I know it might not seem like a big deal. It is ultimately something that is pretty superfluous. But I don't know. I feel like if you're going to have this big of a set, the least you can do is have the characters be able to sit down. There is one other thing that does bother me, and this is something I talked about with the Black Pearl set. It's not really the fault of the LEGO designers, it's just the very nature of the set means it is designed this way. But because this is the White City, there's so many white bricks, and when you're building the outside, it's not quite as visually interesting. Like, Rivendell is cool because you get all the trees and the patterns on the roof and the water and all these beautiful colors. In the Shire, you get a lot of green, but you also get trees and details like clotheslines and birds and stuff like that. And it's a little less evident in Barad-dûr, but you still get the lava flow, the rocks crawling up the side of the tower, the giant Eye of Sauron. But with the Black Pearl, because it was mostly black, there just wasn't a whole lot of visually interesting stuff. It was more in the size and scale and design of the pirate ship. And I feel the same way about Minas Tirith, because most of the interesting stuff in terms of like colors and designs is on the inside. So it's like the inside of the main gate section where all the stalls are, on the back side with the Great Hall, because you had to go around back to look at that. About as much as they have is the courtyard on top with the White Tree of Gondor, which has, you know, some water from the fountain and the tree itself, and it looks really good. It's just that it's not quite as visually interesting. I guess this all comes down to, what do you prefer in Lego sets? Do you prefer they be visually spectacular, like grand in size and scale? Or do you prefer something that's a little more fun to look at with different colors and textures and stuff? In my case, I like them both, but I like it more if a set has a good balance of them. I think Rivendell does manage to do this really well. It probably does the best out of any of the new Lego Lord of the Rings sets, because it is big and it has like this big roof and all these, you know, big trees and the gazebo, but it does also have, you know, the colors and the other stuff to it. So it just looks more visually interesting. For me, I do like both, and I have sets that are both. But when it comes to building, I think it's more fun to build a set with more colors. It's a whole lot easier because when all your bricks are the same color, it can be difficult to find the bricks you need. And then when you're looking at like 50 bags worth of white bricks, it just kind of starts to bleed together after a while. Top that off with the set not being very structurally sound and me kind of being an idiot when building it, and it wasn't the greatest set to put together, but it is definitely a set with one of the greatest end results. Like I said, it is massive, but it is really cool how massive it is and just how much stuff they managed to put in. And the hall, and the beacons, and all the little rooms, and the White Tree of Gondor with this one blossom. It is very cool. So, is the set worth it? That's the big question you probably all want to know. I mean, I would say so. Something that a lot of you are probably wondering about is the price tag. It's $650 before tax. Now, Lego actually offers free shippings on sets that are over a certain amount. At least they do in the US. I don't know about international shipping, so can't really comment on that. But you know, that is a lot of money. I was actually able to use all my insiders points to get a discount, so I ended up going to an amount that was lower than the pre-tax amount, so I did save a good bit of money. I think I saved like $60 on the set. But I spent a lot of money, and it'll definitely burn a hole through your wallet if you're not careful. I've said this before multiple times. Legos are expensive because, well, for one thing, everything's expensive nowadays. But, you know, it does take a lot of work to design, put them together, get all those bricks in, make sure you have all the bricks. So it's definitely not an impulse buy. I don't think Lego sets in general are impulse buys. Maybe a small set that you like walk across in Walmart or something, but big sets where you need to have the money and the space to put it and the time to build it, definitely not an impulse buy. If you are willing to spend the money, I think you will have a pretty good time building the set together. You'll probably have less problems than I did, hopefully. But overall, I think Lego did a really good job designing and putting the set together. I really like it. I'm glad I bought it and built it. I'm glad I have all these characters as minifigures. I can't complain too much, honestly. So, yeah, those are pretty much all my thoughts on the Lego Minas Tirith set. It is very cool, it's a very good looking set, and if you have the time and money and space for it, I hope you can get it. That's going to be all I have for y'all today. I need to get back to work on that Hobbit video, and hopefully the copyright system won't get too mad at me this time. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye!